Nigeria records more than 200 new cases of Covid-19, highest number ever recorded in one day. Despite rising cases of coronavirus in Kano State, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje wants President Muhammadu Buhari to relax lockdown rule on the state. On the international front, the rift deepens between Australia and China as calls get louder for inquiry into China's COVID-19 role. And in sport, postponed Tokyo Olympics may be cancelled altogether next year if no vaccination is found for COVID-19.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Nigeria recorded its highest one-day coronavirus cases on Thursday when the Nigerian Center for Disease Control announced 204 new infections. Total national toll now stands at 1,932 confirmed cases. For the first time, Kano beats Lagos in number of reported cases as it locks 80 of the 204. Lagos gladly settled for 45. Other than Gombe, they recorded 12 cases. 13 other states locked cases in single digits. NCDC says 319 patients have been discharged. Fatalities have climbed to 58. The lockdown in Osun State has been extended. Governor Adegboyega Oyetola says the lockdown extension is necessary to curb escalating community transmission of the coronavirus disease. He said the lockdown will be relaxed on Monday. The governor said all the conditions that prevailed in the previous lockdown will continue to govern this 3-day extension. Oyetola said anyone contravening the order shall face the wrath of the law. Governor Oyetola said new rules should come into force on Monday, May the 4th, as the lockdown is relaxed in tandem with recommendations of the Nigeria Governors Forum. The approval of the president and the prevailing situation in the state. There has been increasing cases of COVID-19 in Kano State. Confirmed cases have skyrocketed in the past week and 80 new cases were recorded on Thursday, exceeding Lagos for the first time. In the midst of this rising pandemic numbers, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje is asking President Muhammadu Buhari to relax the total lockdown imposed on the state. The governor made the request while inaugurating a 7-member group of experts to work with the state's technical committee. The lockdown was imposed by President Buhari on Monday following unexplained mass deaths in the state and to curb the spread of coronavirus there. The governor says he's asking for an urgent easing of the lockdown to forestall the economic hardship on the state and to help residents of the state, especially fasting Muslims, to restock their homes with food items. It's the second Friday in a whole month of Ramadan that would be marked with no group worship gatherings. It's a month that is being reshaped by the new coronavirus pandemic, especially with lockdowns in many parts of the country. Reporter Kelechi Mekalem tells us how this whole month of Ramadan is shaping up to be different from Ramadan's past.
Imam Abdul Qadir Hassan makes his call for prayers in the early hours, but only a limited number of people converge. The holy month here is usually marked with mass congregational prayers and the communal fellowship of Muslims who gather before and after sunset. But it's different this year.
It has been part of, the activities of Ramadan when Muslims want to break their fast. Coronavirus affected, this year's fasting. Number one, we are not, of course, we won't come in congregation, to pray. That is one. And number two, even during the iftar, the sunset, when the sun has already set, we usually break our fast. Mostly we usually come together, because there is blessing in sharing, there is blessing, in eating, together. Of course, it affected it in that way because there is no way, we will come.
The pandemic has also made it increasingly difficult for many minimum and low-income earners to fend for their families. With major offices and businesses closed, the government has been trying to ease the suffering of the people through support programs. But many people say they're yet to receive any aid.
With COVID-19 on the ground, there's no preparation for this year's Ramadan. We're not allowed to go to the market to buy food, and we don't have money either to purchase it. So it's going to be very difficult.
There's no money to go enter market or buy food. We've been hearing of what they used to say palliative and what have you. Up to this moment as I speak to you, there are a lot of people who are complaining that they are yet to receive this palliative. So definitely it will affect people at home.
Once the month of Ramadan ends and the moon is sighted, Muslims celebrate the Eid al-Fitr. This holiday is marked with a feast, and the better off share what they have with the poor in their communities. But this too could be affected by the coronavirus pandemic and the need for social distancing, making this year's Ramadan one of the most challenging for Muslims in Nigeria and across the world.
Federal civil servants on grade levels 14 and above, and those who provide essential services who have been at home and locked down for the past 1 month, are being recalled to work on Monday. The federal government gave new rules for the resumption. Officers must limit the number of visitors they welcome to their offices, and hand-washing facilities must be located in strategic areas within their office complex. The government says it has decontaminated the Federal Secretariat complexes in Abuja and is making efforts to do the same in other public establishments. The work week will reduce by 2 days. Recalled civil servants will work on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday till 2 p.m. each day.
Coming up, African stories. South Africans take homeless persons into shelters to minimize spread of COVID-19. And later, international news. The rift deepens between Australia and China as calls get louder for inquiry into China's COVID-19 role.
You are watching ANN.
Remember that I want marry. She dey come my house today. I'm gonna tell her to marry me.
Remember what I taught you about playing music from the internet?
I'm gonna play romantic music for her. The phone remains small, make it done. Will you marry me? I have a surprise for you. Google, play me a romantic music. Everything is okay. Network is shaky. Google, play me a romantic music. Google, play me a romantic music.
Maybe I should go.
Don't let poor internet ruin special moments. Join the super fast and reliable 4G network and get double data.
Now the watch.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Like in other African countries, South Sudanese small businesses are suffering as a result of the new coronavirus measures there. Patrick Oyet has the details.
Mogaswaka owns a hardware store that is now closed because of restrictions put in place to stop the spread of COVID-19. Moga's business was supporting his 8 family members. He says he is unsure whether his business will survive under the current lockdown.
We are losing in the business sector. Then we are supposed to be uplifted. How do the government uplift us? They have to think about that one.
Another challenge for businesses dealing in construction materials is that demand is likely to fall as many people shift their goals to getting basic needs.
The owners of some of the businesses here say a continued lockdown would mean having to rely more heavily on food aid since they are now depleting all their savings and have no income.
There are some businesses that have loans to service. In addition, many still have other financial obligations like paying rent.
citizens even are already locked. They are not getting anything, either food or what, because they lack money. So the best thing is if the traders plus the community could be assisted by food, which is fine.
The government is urging financial institutions to come up with a fair plan for loan repayments to businesses.
I've been addressing the banks, the local and foreign banks, that during this period of coronavirus, we have got to be relaxed in the way that we do things. There are some certain things that we have got not to be really strict because of the situation we found ourselves in.
Small business owners like Mogaswaka are urging the government to waive taxes so that their businesses can stay afloat until the lockdown is lifted, but a lifting of the restrictions put in place to control the spread of COVID-19 is not yet in sight.
The World Health Organization says it is worried by the significant number of coronavirus cases being spread in communities in West African countries. WHO regional head Matshidiso Moeti said on Thursday some countries are seeing a rise in cases spread in communities. Moeti did not mention the countries. She also said decisions to impose or remove restrictions could be extremely challenging. She said when a government decides not to lock down a city, it needs to be aware that it would be consequences in terms of the spread of the virus. On Tuesday, the government of Senegal, which has recorded 933 COVID-19 cases since the outbreak and 9 deaths as of Thursday, said 1 case of community infection in the Casamance region of the country contaminated 25 other persons. The government has declared a state of emergency, closed schools and issued restrictions on gatherings and travel, but cases have continued to rise. President Macky Sall says it's taking more coercive measures around inter-urban transport, markets and public spaces because of what he called the proliferation of risky behaviors. South Africa's homeless persons are being taken off the streets to temporary shelters to curb the spread of the new coronavirus. President Cyril Ramaphosa had said in a nationwide address in March that temporary shelters must be identified to accommodate homeless persons for at least 21 days. Elisa Njamela reports on what Johannesburg is doing to shelter its homeless persons.
The Gauteng provincial government is determined to get everyone off the streets in a bid to fight the spread of COVID-19. The government is moving all homeless people to shelters. The shelters don't just ensure the homeless are fed and given warm blankets. They also allow for the screening of COVID-19 and for medical treatment to be given.
There is no national consensus on homeless people in South Africa. Researchers often rely on individual studies in each city on homeless people, and those studies indicate that there are at least 200,000 homeless people in this country.
In Johannesburg alone, about 2,000 vulnerable people are being housed in shelters. Statistics has revealed that there are at least 15,000 homeless people in Gauteng. As part of dealing with the spread of the coronavirus, they've been relocated to temporary accommodation such as this one.
We must deal with what makes you end up in the streets. You all know what it is. I want to deal it with you. I'm already speaking to the health department to ensure that they help you in any way regarding your addictions. Once you are able to beat this, you will all have a better life.
These Gauteng province leaders also delivered books and exercise equipment to inspire physical agility and wellness among the homeless accommodated at these shelters.
There's books, there's games, there's balls, there's all sorts of activities just to make sure that we keep them engaged and not idling as they would have. But what's critical is that even post the lockdown, we want to be able to capacitate them sufficiently so that they can be able to be empowered and not go back to the streets the same people that they were before.
The homeless are not forced into these shelters but are being encouraged to remain there.
in this place, I think that my life is going to change by me being here. So it's a wonderful place for us to be here today, and our lives are going to change, most of us.
I am one of the people who've been sleeping on the street, and then we find ourselves in the situation of corona, using opportunities, using it as an opportunity to enter somewhere concerning our future. But at the end of the day, it's a crisis.
The Gauteng government is working with metros and municipalities to erect tents and use abandoned buildings to provide the homeless with sanctuary during the lockdown and while the country is engaged in a fight against the coronavirus.
Up next, international news. The rift deepens between Australia and China as calls get louder for inquiry into China's COVID-19 rule. And later, sports. IOC says Tokyo Olympics could be scrapped altogether if no vaccine is found for the new coronavirus.
You are watching ANN.
Hey, tell them. They told me you are the best around here.
What can I do for you, sir?
I want my own very, very simple. I don't want any shine. If I see any shine.
Actually, I'd love some sequins on my skirt. And I don't like any frills.
I beg, I want frills on mine, but it must not be too tight.
Tight! That tight now, that is what I want. And the transition.
Oh, you know what? I want a gown. Me too. I want to come to burn.
You know what GMS are this for coming? Hey, did you capture all the information?
Of course not.
Actually.
Fantastic!
I give my customers what they love because everyone has their unique style. So why should they wear the same thing? Just like MTN for me, which gives unique data and recharge offers just the way you like it. Just dial *121# and turn up great offers every day.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. The United Kingdom has recorded another spike in its COVID-19 cases with a huge number of 670 infections. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says COVID-19 deaths are now more than 26,000. More than 6,000 persons have tested positive to coronavirus in the last 24 hours, bringing the total number of cases in the country to 171. Public Health Wales says 22 persons have died after testing positive for coronavirus in Wales, taking the total number of deaths to 908. More than 1,400 patients have now died in Scotland. Prime Minister Johnson says he has set out a comprehensive plan to revive the economy. He says the plan is kick in next week. Part of the measures will also include wearing face masks in public. China and Australia have still at loggerheads over repercussions from Australia's campaign for an inquiry into China's role in the coronavirus outbreak that has unsettled the world. China has blamed Australia of engaging the United States to want an investigation against the Dow under China. Ambassador Chen Yuan used an Australian newspaper interview this week to warn that pursuing an inquiry could spark a Chinese consumer boycott of students and tourists visiting Australia. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also attacked China and now calls on other world leaders to support the demand for answers. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison is standing firm on his call for an inquiry into the COVID-19 pandemic. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened he would impose new tariffs on Beijing. Trump has crafted retaliatory measures over the coronavirus outbreak, which has cost tens of thousands of lives in the United States alone. U.S. officials are beginning to explore proposals for punishing China for its handling of the pandemic. Two U.S. officials speaking on condition of anonymity says there has been discussion on how hard to hit China and how to properly calibrate it. The Washington Post newspaper reported some administration officials have discussed having the U.S. cancel part of its debt obligations to China. President Donald Trump has worked against intelligence reports that contradicted his stance that there is evidence COVID-19 originated in a laboratory in Wuhan, China. Trump's officials have been pushing the U.S. intelligence community to determine the exact origins of the coronavirus outbreak. American technology company Amazon has told its staff around the world who can work from home to continue doing so until early October. The company says it is investing in safety measures that include physical distancing, deep cleaning, temperature checks, and the availability of face coverings and hand sanitizers for employees who wish to go to the office. Workers at warehouses and other facilities have stayed operational to keep deliveries flowing to customers stuck at home in government-mandated lockdowns. Other employees have been working from home since March. Malaysian Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin says he's ready to reopen the economy and ease restrictions that was imposed on the country 6 weeks ago. Yassin reveals this in a special televised address on Friday. Muhyiddin acknowledged the slowdown in coronavirus cases and increase in recoveries in the country. Malaysians are preparing to return to work on Monday after several weeks of lockdown on all non-essential businesses and schools, banning of public gatherings and restricted travel. Muhyiddin says the lockdown has cost the country $14 billion.
When we return, sports. IOC says Tokyo Olympics could be scrapped altogether if no vaccine is found for the new coronavirus. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you'll need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, Africa News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and Sport. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says the postponed Tokyo Olympics next year might have to be outrightly cancelled if no vaccines are found for the treatment of COVID-19.
Tokyo 2020 President Yoshiro Mori says the Olympic Games will be scrapped if they cannot take place. The Games have already been postponed for a year until July 2021 because of the coronavirus pandemic. Japan's Medical Association also says it will be difficult to hold Summer Olympics unless effective vaccines are developed. The Tokyo 2020 spokesman, however, says organizers are focusing to deliver the Games next year.
Paris Saint-Germain are now champions of the Ligue 1 title after the season was ended. Amid the coronavirus pandemic, PSG have now won their 7th title in the last 8 years. The club is 12 points ahead of second-placed Marseille when the season was suspended in March. The French Professional Football League ratified the decision 2 days after French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe suspended sports in the country until at least September. That is in the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a safe weekend.